She thought she had claimed a seat of privilege. A woman in a designer suit, confident and untouchable, slid into first class without a second thought. But when a quiet 9-year-old boy arrived, clutching his boarding pass, everything began to unravel. What looked like a simple seating mistake soon revealed something far darker, an arrogance that exposed deep prejudice. And this child, calm beyond his years, wasn't just any passenger. By the time the truth came out, her world would collapse. How could one flight change everything? Eleanor Briggs was the kind of woman who thrived on appearances. Dressed in a sleek designer suit, a Prada handbag in hand, she carried herself as if the world owed her respect. On that transatlantic flight, she slid into seat 7A, adjusting her jacket with the quiet confidence of someone who believed she belonged everywhere. But what she didn't realize was that this seat wasn't hers at all. It belonged to a 9-year-old boy named Christopher Evans. With a small backpack on his shoulders and the calm grace of a child raised to know his worth, Christopher wasn't just any passenger. He was the son of Jonathan Evans, a millionaire airline owner whose name carried weight across the globe. Yet in this moment, none of that mattered. All that stood between Christopher and his rightful seat was a woman convinced that her status placed her above others. As the cabin settled into quiet anticipation for takeoff, an uncomfortable truth was about to surface, one that would test dignity, expose prejudice, and change lives forever. Christopher approached the seat with quiet confidence, ticket in hand. He wasn't nervous, not even surprised, just calm, like someone who had been taught that truth doesn't need to shout. But as soon as he stopped in front of Eleanor Briggs, the atmosphere shifted. She glanced at him, then at his boarding pass, and her lips curled into a smirk. Without hesitation, she dismissed him, claiming that children like him belonged in the back rows where there was more room to play. The words cut through the cabin air, leaving an uncomfortable silence. Passengers glanced toward the exchange, some whispering, most averting their eyes. No one stepped forward. No one challenged her. Christopher tried again, holding out his ticket, his voice soft but steady. Eleanor's response was sharper this time, her tone laced with arrogance. She pressed the call button for assistance, insisting there had been a mistake. To her, the idea of a black child sitting in first class was not just unusual, it was impossible. When the flight attendant arrived, she examined the boarding pass and confirmed that the seat indeed belonged to Christopher. For a moment, it seemed the matter was settled. But then she noticed a small note attached to his booking, something requiring higher clearance. She quietly excused herself to inform the supervisor. Eleanor paused at an opportunity to grow louder. She bragged about her consultancy firm, her high-profile clients, and her belief that people like this could never afford first class. Each word only made the tension heavier. Still, Christopher didn't argue. He stood silently, watching, his composure far beyond his years. Then came the moment that shifted the cabin. Richard Hall, the flight supervisor with decades of experience, stepped forward. He recognized Christopher immediately from previous flights. He knew who this boy was. Yet, out of respect, he followed protocol, letting Christopher lead the way. The boy didn't falter. He began asking Eleanor questions, not with anger, but with clarity. Did she truly believe some people were born superior? Did she think wealth gave her the right to humiliate others? His calmness clashed against her arrogance, and the contrast was striking. Eleanor doubled down. "That's the way the world works," she said, her voice carrying across the cabin. "Some lead, others serve." Gasps rippled through the rows. Her mask of confidence had revealed something much darker. Christopher's thoughts turned inward, recalling his late mother's words. "My place is where I have the right to be, and no one else's ignorance can change that." She had passed 3 years earlier, but her lessons lived in him, guiding him now. The supervisor gave him a questioning glance, as if to ask, was this the moment to end it? Christopher's answer was calm but decisive. He requested that his father be called. The cabin froze. Few realized what that meant. But Richard knew. He dialed directly, placing the call that would turn a tense standoff into a story the world would soon witness. And when the line clicked open, the quiet dignity of a child was about to summon a voice powerful enough to bring Eleanor's world crashing down. The phone was placed into Eleanor's trembling hand. On the other end, Jonathan Evans, millionaire, owner of the very airline she sat upon, listened in silence as Christopher calmly explained what had happened. His small voice carried the weight of injustice, repeating the words she had spoken. "People like you are born to serve." The silence that followed was louder than any outburst. Then Jonathan's voice cut through, sharp and cold. He asked Eleanor one simple question. "So, respect only matters when parents are powerful?" Her face drained of color. Around her, passengers leaned in, every eye fixed on the unraveling scene. The confidence she had carried minutes earlier was gone. Jonathan revealed what she hadn't realized. Christopher had recorded everything, and that recording had already been backed up to the family's security system. There would be no denial, no escape. Eleanor's arrogance collapsed into panic. She had walked onto the plane believing she owned the room. Now, her own words had become a weapon against her. Her boasts, her prejudice, her certainty that she was untouchable, exposed for the world to see. And as Jonathan's voice delivered the final blow, it became clear. This was no longer just a dispute over a seat. It was a reckoning. A single act of prejudice, spoken in arrogance, was about to cost her everything she thought defined her. The cabin sat in stunned silence, passengers frozen between disbelief and uneasy recognition. They had witnessed the ugliness of prejudice laid bare, and now they would watch what happened when truth and power answered back. The fallout was swift. Within days, Eleanor Briggs watched her world crumble. Contracts worth over $2.5 million evaporated overnight, her consultancy firm severed ties, and her name dominated global headlines. Woman who insulted millionaire's son loses everything. From a luxury penthouse in London, she fell to a modest rented flat, her reputation permanently stained by her own arrogance. But the real story wasn't about her downfall, it was about Christopher. At just 9 years old, his quiet composure and refusal to retaliate made him a symbol of dignity. Evans Global Airways launched a zero-tolerance campaign against discrimination, using his story as a beacon of change. In his school, Christopher became an advocate for bullied students, proving that strength doesn't always roar. It sometimes whispers with grace. His late mother's words lived on. "My place is where I have the right to be, and no one else's ignorance can change that." Those words echoed beyond the cabin, beyond the airline, touching millions who saw in him a reminder of what it means to stand tall in the face of prejudice. This wasn't just about one woman's arrogance or one child's courage. It was about a reality far too many still face today. The quiet, cutting moments when humanity is denied based on skin color. So the question remains, how many more Christophers must stand silently against prejudice before the world learns to see dignity instead of difference? And when the next injustice unfolds, will we look away or finally take a stand? What do you think about this story? Was Eleanor's downfall justice, or could things have ended differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that reveal the truth behind prejudice and resilience.